Well, g'day guys, welcome back. It's the DIY guy, and today what I want to show you how to do is build your own quarter pipe. Today we're going to build a 4-foot quarter pipe, or 1.2 meters as we'd say here in Australia. I honestly have never done this before, but as I usually do with all the things that I show you, I do a lot of research, usually on YouTube, and find out the best way to do things from all that research. So I've watched about 20 videos on how to construct these quarter pipes, and what I'm going to show you is like a combination of the best ways that I've seen. So to build the quarter pipe, we're going to need to build this out of plywood and stud timber. Yesterday I went to Bunnings, I picked up all the necessary wood that we would need to build it. If you come over here a little bit, I'll show you exactly what I've got. This is pretty much all you're going to need to build it. Okay, so what we have here is the ply and the stud timber for building the ramp. I have three different types of ply. I have 18mm ply, which is just standard structural ply for building the transitions, which are the sides of the quarter pipe, which basically hold the frame together. Underneath that, the bottom layer, or your initial layer, is a 9mm structural ply, and your top layer is going to be a 9mm marine ply. Marine ply gives it its waterproofing to some extent. It's not 100% waterproof, but I'd still recommend to cover it, but at least it's going to be protected a bit better from the elements, and it's a lot smoother and neater and nicer to ride on. The stud timber is the other important part. I've got 12 45 by 90mm studs and 140 by 45 stud. This is what I'll be using to do the bracing to give it extra strength. Okay, in terms of the tools that we're going to need: spirit levels, jigsaw for cutting the transitions, circular saw for cutting off the studs, an impact driver, very handy for driving in all your screws, because I'm building this with screws. These are the screws I'll be using today. To hold the frame together, I'll be using these 75mm external timber screws, and to hold down the surface of the quarter pipe, I'll be using the 50mm 8-gauge by 10mm. Okay, so the other thing we'll use is the reciprocating saw, pretty handy for just cut-offs, tape measure, square, and the chalk line. So let's get into it. Okay, so one thing I forgot to mention is that this type of project is an excellent project for involving the family, and in this case, involving the kids. So they're going to help me do this project. Everything taken out of the trailer and laid out on the floor now. The first thing we need to do is cut our transitions. They are the side components that hold the frame together for the quarter pipe. In my research for trying to see how to build this quarter pipe, the one part that I really struggled to understand and get a lot of information on was the arc angle at which the quarter pipe needs to be. I suppose the one thing I got out of all that, my research, was that for a 4-foot quarter pipe, and we're building a 4-foot or 1.2 meter quarter pipe, you need to measure that arc angle with an 8-foot or a 2.44 meter long piece of wood to get your angle right. Okay, so I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Okay, so as you can see here, I have this piece here is going to be the one I'm going to cut. That's going to be the initial template for the transition. All right, this one here is, I'm just using it so I can swing this 8-foot piece of timber to get my arc angle. So I've measured 8 foot, which is from here to the point here where I'm going to put my pencil through, which is where I swing that arc. That's what makes the line. So from that point there, the center point of that hole, back to here is 8 foot, okay? Now, I want there to be 25 centimeters of overhang. So that's standing room at the top of the quarter pipe to start with, okay? So 25 centimeter platform before it then dips down into that arc. Now I know that if I do that from a standard sheet of 18mm ply, which is 2.4 meters long by 1.2 meters wide, I will be able to cut out 2 transitions from that one sheet. If I go any bigger than 25 centimeter standing platform, I won't be able to get it in there because the arc angle will swing through the bit at the other end. Okay, so I've already pre-measured this to make sure it works. So I know that 25 centimetre is going to work. So what I need to do, I need to measure up 8 foot. So I measure in 25 centimetres from one end, all right, which is here, and then I measure back 8 foot, or 2.44 metres. So along here, and this is where I'm going to attach my swinging arc piece of wood. So I've measured that, there's this line here, which is 2.44 metres or 8 foot. And I've then drawn a line out here, okay? And what I'll do is that I want to swing the arc from the top here. And I want to make sure that I've got the 25 centimetres at this end as well. So I've measured out 25 centimetres, and that will be where I put my pencil for my piece of wood. So if I do that now, I just want that to stay there at 25 centimetres. So there it is there. Now what I need to do is this is exactly 8 foot to this screw in here. I need to line that up with this line here. So there's my line, here's my screw. As I said, I've already done this, so I know exactly where it is. That's the hole there. So if I center it, that is in the hole right there, and I screw it in. Okay, that's held in place now. Now I know that when I swing this arc from here, being 25 centimetres, when I swing this arc like this, it's going to come down, and where it hits the bottom here, that is also going to be 25 centimetres, okay? If I'd made this 30 centimetres, and I brought this to here, I would swing it down, and it would actually go past the 30 centimetres at this end, because remember, I want to get another transition out of this piece here, and it wouldn't have worked. So 25 centimetres is about your mark. Okay, so there's the line. You swing that arc, and it gives you your arc line. Okay, and that is your cut line. Okay, so the next phase is to cut the transitions. I'm going to sort of cheat a little bit by clamping 2 boards together, so then I'm only going to make the 1 cut. The reason why, you might ask me the reason why I'm using 2 boards when I said you can get 2 out of 1 board is I need 3, because my quarter pipe is going to be 2.4 metres wide. I'm going to have 3 transitions to support it. Okay, so I have to cut in the new board anyway. So I'm going to clamp these together. Okay, so now we're about to start cutting the transitions. I want everyone to realise that doing these types of things can be quite dangerous. Probably not something that kids should be doing in terms of the cutting and that sort of thing, unless you know exactly how to do it and you got your parents' supervision. But some of the things that you might not realise it's important in these types of things is personal safety equipment. So earmuffs, breathing mask, and safety glasses. So I'll put that on. What we're going to be using is the standard 65mm jigsaw. That means 65mm depth cut. We're cutting around about 32mm, so that's plenty deep enough. Because we're cutting through 2 boards, it's going to be pretty slow, but at least you can do 2 at once. I like to have everything which is cordless, but unfortunately I don't have one. So I'm going to be using a 240 volt jigsaw. Okay, let's put our safety gear on. This is not absolutely necessary, but not a bad idea. Good habit to get into. Okay, I'm not going to use that because I can't see through my goggles. Okay, so I went and got some spacers because I've sort of figured out as I was cutting that as you cut along, the piece in the middle, because I've got no support in the middle because I'm cutting through there, it's going to start falling down and drooping, and that could impact the cut. So I've got a support for the middle part. Just make sure you don't push it past the line because that's where you're cutting. Okay, let's get back into it. Okay, so the next phase we need to do now that we've cut out our transitions is to work out what our stud lengths have to be. That is our framing studs that cross brace the two transitions, or three in my case because I'm using three. What we need to do is, we'll be cutting them in a minute, but the first thing we need to do is we need to measure exactly where our centers are. I'm going 20 centimeter centers or 200 mil centers. The first one needs to be measured up to approximately where the width of the first one's going to be. So I've measured along here 50 mil gap because I'm using 45 mil studs. So I'm going to be measuring every 20 centimeters with a tape measure along that gap. I'll just grab assistance.
Would you like me to hold?
Yep, down here please.
Yep.
Just hold it on that mark there please. Hold it tight. Yep. Okay, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. Next one. And it's exactly 2,000 millimeters long. Last mark. Okay, so what we need to do, what we do is we transfer these marks onto our other one, and they are where our cross members are being screwed into. In a little while I'll show you exactly how to, you're going to have to make the cuts into the center piece, the recess cuts for the studs to sit into in the center transition. Alright, but for now the next phase is to cut our studs to length. Okay, now that we've marked all our centers on the transition boards, we need to cut the length of the studs, which are the cross braces for the transition boards. Now to do that, I already know that our sheets of ply that we're putting down for our surface are 2.4 meters long. Now if I make these 2.4 meters long, they're going to be too long because I have to include the width of the transition boards as well, because the ply has to overlap the transition boards. So I've got to take the width of the transition boards, both of them, so times by 2, and I need to take that off the length of these, because then that'll give me my overall length of 2.4 meters. Okay, so the transition boards are 19 mil thick. I may have said a 15 mil or 18 mil earlier in the show, but I've looked it up and they're actually 19 mil. So I've got two of them, so that's 3.8 centimeters or 38 mil. Now I need to take that from 2.4 because that's the width of my sheet, and that comes back to 2.362. So I've measured already my studs at 2.362 meters. I've made my line. I haven't marked my line yet, but I've made the marks. Now just before I do that though, I'll tell you that the best way to do this is to try and cut them all at the same time, because then you'll know that all of them are exactly the same length. And to do that, I've made a square board at the back and they're all pushed up against the square board. So I know that they're all the same length. It's just a matter of marking my line, my cut line, and I'll use my power saw to cut them all the same length.
Done.
Okay, so I explained earlier that the width of the quarter pipe is going to be so long that I need to have a middle transition to support the cross framing studs. So to make that work perfectly, I actually need to recess out the section for the stud to sit in, the cross member. So what I'll use is a template, so I know that it's going to be 90 mil by 45. So I've got my thing here. I've measured the center So it's just a matter of center to center. Centers are marked on here. Trace around that, because I know that's going to be my recess there, and then cut it out. For that, I'm using this reciprocating saw, and it's just a matter of tracing out that cut line. Now I've got these every 20 centimeters, okay, all the way down. I've done this one here. I'll do this one here, but I won't do this one here, okay? Now, I've actually already done it, so this is what it looks like. Okay, that's what it looks like. So, this is an example piece of a cross member, 90 by 45, and it just sits in there perfectly. Okay, so that's how you want it flush, because you'll be screwing your surface down to this. Okay guys, so the next part is framing it up. I've obviously been using a couple of little helpers here today to help me do that, and they're going to help me hold it together. So we've got our centerpiece and our two end transitions, and we're going to screw them together. We want to make sure that the center line on these cross-bracing studs lines up with our centers that we've already pre-marked on our transition boards. Okay, so it's a matter of screwing it in. It's just a matter of initially just tacking it in place, and then you might need to wiggle it a little bit later on. So we'll start screwing them in. Okay, so I suppose we're up to the point now where we've got to put our coping on. That's our steel pipe. I'm sort of making this up as I go a little bit, but that's always the fun of these sorts of things. So the coping is this steel pipe here. What I've done is I've cut a recess into the top of our frame, and so to make sure that I've got the coping in the right place and sticking out the top of the quarter pipe the right distance, I've laid a couple of sheets on the frame here. I've screwed at the bottom just to hold them in place there, and I've laid the coping pipe in place. The first time I did it, I realised it was too high. It was bulging out too much from the boards, so I had to just recess a space for it to sit into. And I used my reciprocating saw just to cut the top of this. Doesn't matter if this is not neat, doesn't need to be, but it's important to make sure you've got your depths at both ends and in the centre here the right height. So what I've done is I can roll this into place like that. It sits pretty neatly, and with the help, I've already done this, but with the help of other people, I pushed the plyboard up the coping, and I was quite happy with that position of the coping pipe. So now that I've done that, I can take the coping pipe out and we can look to start attaching the plyboard to the frame. So I've just drilled in the first sheet of the plyboard to the frame. I've started from the top. I had my coping along here. I pushed it up to the coping. I had a little bit of help just to hold it in place. Made sure that it was lined up down the sides here, because you don't want your board shifting side to side. You want it nice and plumb with the rest of it. And all I've done is tacked it in place at the moment. I'm just going to tack it in place at the moment. I've just tacked it in down the edges, down the other edge. I'm going to put the next sheet on here below it, and then I'm going to get my string line. I've got a chalk line, and I'm going to chalk line all the lines, and then we're going to go on and we're going to put it in properly. Once we've got the bottom sheets down, we're going to finish off by putting the marine ply on top. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a chalk line. Like this. Chalk line. I'm going to ask for an assistant. Here we go, so give it a good old shake. Run that out please, Lily. I want you to line it up with the screw at the top. That one there. This one please.
The second one?
Yep. Exactly in line with the screw.
Yep.
Hold it tight. Next one. Exactly in line.
Yep.
I'll just wind this in again. So what you do is you keep going like that all the way down along your studs, and then you screw every 300 or 300 millimeters or 30 centimeters all the way along each one of them until you finish. Okay, I'm going to get to this now, and I'll catch up with you in a minute. Okay, so I've had to pop into the workshop to measure up and cut and drill my piece of coping pipe. Now what I'm using here is a 2-inch piece of gal steel pipe, and it's a little bit long. It needs to be 2.4 meters long, so I've got to cut a little bit off the end. I'll do that with the grinder in a second. And once I've done that, I've got a pre-marked chalk line that runs along the breadth of this, and I've taken the liberty of using my tape measure to measure every 30 centimeters a place where I'm going to drill a hole through the pipe, through both sides of the pipe, and that's what I'll be using to then drill a screw in to hold the pipe in place on the ramp. Now the way we do that is we use around about probably an 8mm bit to go through both ends, and then at the top end we also need probably about a 12 to 15mm bit, because we have to be able to get our drill bit through the top hole so we can drill it in through the bottom. Okay, so let's get into it. Okay, they're all measured, so I'll just need to cut this now. It and you drill. First drill your pilot holes. Alright, now drill right through. You've got to make this a little bit longer. Not long enough. Okay. Okay, so we're about to start attaching the top plate marine ply to the ramp. As you can see, I've used a saw to put a 45-degree mitre at the end of this so it runs up flush with the coping pipe. I've just tacked it in place with one screw at the moment. We're now setting our string lines with our chalk line, and these will be our screw-in lines, and we're going to screw probably every 30 centimeters all the way down. I noticed that when you're pushing it down here and screwing it down here, the screws in the middle, they start to be not enough, and you've got to go back to them and screw them down a little bit further. So I worked out that the reason why is because you just need to do each line at a time and keep working your way down. Okay, next thing is to put this bottom plate on. Okay, so I've finished attaching the lower part of the ramp surface to the ramp now. I've gone down as far as I can to where I can actually attach it. So from here down, I can't attach it anymore using the same technique that I've been using all the way up, and I'm going to come up with a solution for that. I may just be able to leave it like that. But what I do want to just point out quickly is when I applied this sheet initially, it wasn't as easy as just plonking it up against the lower end of this sheet here and screwing down. I actually had to get a lot of weight put on it by a couple of people because it had to be flexed so I could push it up underneath and up against this sheet here. Then I screwed it down. Okay, if you don't do that, once you screw it down, this gap will open up a fair way. So you need to actually flex that sheet, hold it up against the bottom sheet, and screw it in. That's a quick tip that you'll have to do. Okay, next step now is to build the back end of the ramp, and which is now going to be the platform that people can stand on. Okay, so it's finally complete. It's now completely ready to be used. All I had to do was just finish attaching some of the boards to the side, just cosmetic more than anything, definitely not structural. I've done it to the other side, and now this thing is ready to be used. Okay, so I've been working on the frame for the platform, and this is pretty much what I've come up with. I've sort of just made it up as I've gone along. I've gone 800mm wide platform behind the coping, and I think that's plenty. You know, if you want to use a BMX bike or something like that, that's plenty of room to get up there, a scooter, and for a couple of people to stand up here as well. Okay, just come around, Lily. So the important thing is that it's level, and that's absolutely perfect. Bubbles in the middle. So now we just got to screw the top down. Just get that. Okay, just like everything with this ramp, it is absolutely perfect. So it's just a matter of screwing this down, and we're finished almost. I've got a few cutouts of ply just to put on these sides, just to fill up these holes on the sides here, and I'll put them on at the end. Okay, let's screw this down. And you're probably all thinking that you want to see me shredding this thing to pieces, and I'm about to put my helmet on and grab my board and do just that. But you are going to have to watch that in the next video, because this one's pretty much out of time, and my phone is just about to die. But you know, subscribe and watch me in the next one.